What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knocks Talks. Tonight's guest, person in recovery, Dr. Craig Swainey, went from smoking weed to getting busted for writing himself prescriptions for opioids. Today, he has overcome his struggles with addiction, and he is here to tell us his story. We are going to meet him right after this.
I spent 23 years living in addiction. 16 of those years, I worked as a Red Seal tradesperson in Saskatchewan and Northern Alberta. During that time, I made many mistakes and took more than a few hard knocks. I went from tradesman to business owner to hiding from gang members and dumpster diving. But with that lived experience, I've decided to try and make a change. I've dedicated my life to raising awareness and promoting change in the fields of substance use and psychological health and safety. So join me and my guests as we take off the blinders around mental health in our communities and at work and shine a light on what's working and what's not working in the fields of mental health and occupational health and safety. I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and I'll be your host, and this is Hard Knocks Talks.
Okay, before we bring Craig in, I'd like to remind you that tonight's live production is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery Centre in Leipzig, Saskatchewan, and Stronger Together Canada peer-led support groups by Mom Stop the Harm. If you would like to learn more about our sponsors, get on our weekly email list, stay up to date with all our upcoming streams, find all our audios and more, visit www.hardknockstalks.com. And with that, let us bring in Craig. Hey, my man.
How you doing? I appreciate you having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, we're glad you're here. It's not often that we find somebody in recovery, in a white collar that's willing to come forward and share their story.
Yeah.
So
pedigree. I've got a good pedigree, right?
Rightfully so. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we get started tonight?
No, I don't think so. We can go ahead and get started, and I'll say the things that I've thought of.
All right, here we go. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What was it like growing up?
So, you asked me if there were some things that I wanted to say. And I think, anytime I tell my story, I try to think about what's the take home message, or what am I trying to relate? And I think there's three things I want to relate with my story. One would be trauma. Trauma in our world, I think, is very, very common. I don't think people talk about it enough because I think it's so prevalent. And I think trauma definitely plays into my story. The second thing I want to talk about is mental illness, co-occurring mental illness. That's a big part of my story. And I think it's another thing that's very common. And, I want to hopefully help people feel a little better if they do have a diagnosis of something along with a substance use disorder. And the last thing was acceptance with recovery, like acceptance of other types of recovery, openness to other people who were getting clean. I think that's something that I try to stress with any time I talk, because we all need to come together. This is a kind of a crisis situation going on for a long time now. So those three things, that's what I'm wanting to talk about. So with my story, I'm from southeastern United States. Originally, I'm from a state called North Carolina. Virginia. I live in Virginia now. It's not too far. I live in the capital city of Virginia, Richmond. But starting out the way things were, I think what I have to start out by saying is I had trauma as a young kid. And when I talk about trauma, when we talk about trauma in general, I think and I've heard of it explained this way. One is a big trauma where, let's say you're standing on the beach and a tidal wave comes by, knocks you off the beach, drags you out to sea, takes everything with you. That's big trauma. Those are things like, sexual abuse, physical abuse, trauma that you think about with war, people in the street, seeing people killed right in front of them. Those are the big traumas. And then there's small traumas, little T's. And the way I think about those are, you're still on the beach kicking it, but, you got an 8-foot wave that comes in and smacks you and knocks you around, you get back up. And then there's another 8-foot wave that comes and hits you and knocks you around. Well, after about the 10th one, you're out to sea, all your stuff's out there, and you're in no, same boat as when the tidal wave came by. And I think a lot of us, a big significant percentage of us, if not all of us, have one or the other, either growing up or while we're in our addictions. And I think what's so important about that is how much change it can do to a person. And so when I talk about me having trauma as a kid and when I was young, it changed me in that I had all this fear. I was full of fear, and I never knew why I was afraid. I really didn't. I just knew I was always afraid. And I was always a person who, immediately when something happened, I automatically thought, oh shit, what did I do wrong? I really fucked things up this time, that kind of stuff. And that was all, I think, based in the trauma that I had. I think that, everything that I did coming out of, growing up was in an attempt to help myself be safe, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And the way I did that was with, athletics. I tried to be, I tried to do everything I could do to make myself safe. And in that way, and in those ways, what I did was I tried to do really well in school. I tried to, do what I could to, do the best I could, so to speak, and it's strange because anytime I talk to, when I first got clean, back in 2008, you always have these family things where, your family comes in if you're in rehab and they have a family day or whatever, where they tell your family all about, what you've been doing and
all
how
the bad
addiction
things
works and all that stuff. And,
yeah.
Yeah. So well, I mean, not funny, but what came out of that, one of the things that I remembered was my mom and my dad just being like, why, I don't get why you felt that way, like why, I wish, we knew how afraid you were and, those kind of things. And I don't know why I was afraid to talk with people about it, but I just wasn't. So, I grew up with this chaotic kind of brain. Part
was
of it
there
based
was there
on,
drinking at home?
Experience. No, my parents were, straight down the line. No alcohol, no drugs. There was addiction in both sides of their families, both my mom's and my dad. So they avoided everything. And we were, Christian families, the Bible Belt, in the U.S. and so no, there wasn't a lot of drugs around. And I think that contributed in some ways because, while I was always afraid of things, I also had I was a thrill seeker. I was always, when things got going, I was always willing to push it a little further than most people, which ended up getting me into trouble.
Still, like what kind of things? What kind of things are you talking about?
Well, thrill seeking kind of stuff, like let's see, if you're going to jump off this cliff over here, then I'm going to go up a little bit higher and jump off, you know, from a little more, or I'm going to do this, you know. Driving is a bad one of mine. Like I can drive like a maniac, and I love it. That's what's bad about it is, you know, it gets my juices flowing. So I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, you know, driving like a mad.
Are you the guy? Are you the guy that won't let people? Are you the guy that won't let people merge in because you want to race them?
Man, I used to be. I'm not gonna lie. I used to be bad about that kind of stuff. But the older I get, the more I'm like, this is just, you know, just let this guy get in there. It's all right.
Yeah.
You know?
I know my car's faster than yours. You can come in. Yeah.
Right. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But you know, trying to push it to the limits and things. I did really well in school. You know, I did really well in college. You know, I started getting this laser focus for medical school when I was in college. I never, you know, like had this big dream of being a doctor. I started doing well in college and just started thinking, well, geez, you know, what should I do here? I'm making such good grades. I can do anything I want. And so I started, you know, initially I thought I was going to be physical therapy. But I switched over to medicine. When I switched over to medicine, I, you know, went like laser focused on grades and did really, really, really well. But because I was so focused on grades, I was able to keep my shit together, so to speak, while I was in college. I drank, you know, pretty heavily, like I think most people do. But I didn't get into any trouble with drugs. I still stayed away from drugs. I was hey, I'm not going to mess around with anything. Just think that, you know, drugs will mess you up. So, you know, things were pretty, you know, busy with school. And, you know, nobody in my family had been into medical school. So I had this, you know, kind of, I'm not going to get in, you know, here I am from this small town, you know, it's never going to work out. And, I end up deciding, hey, you know, I'm going to start smoking weed. You know, like my college days are coming to an end. I've done really well. You know, I've put myself where I need to be to go to school, and so I'm going to kick it. You know, I'm going to relax a little bit. And you know, weed was everywhere in college, but it was crazy because, you know, and I described this to people, and I've heard it in meetings over and over again. But the first time I smoked weed, man, it was like, wow, you know, my brain got quiet. I had all this stress, had all this fear inside, you know, from when I was a kid, you know, building up to holy shit, you know, that fear gets transferred to anything you can think of, including holy shit, I'm not going to, you know, reach this goal I've set and reach for so long. And you get that blanket of calm come over you. And it's like, damn, I was like, wow, holy shit. You know, like I can't believe how good I feel, like how normal I feel, you know, like this is phenomenal. You know, my brain's not buzzing anymore. And that, you know, that it worked out. That was it for me. You know,
that was like you were all in after that.
I was fucking all in after that. It's amazing. You know, you don't hear that. I don't hear that much, you know, in the field. I don't hear people say, you know, I smoked weed and that was it for me. That did it, you know. But damn, that's the way it was for me, man. I don't know what to say other than it did it for me. So from then on, it was, you know, I'm smoking weed any chance I get. And I did that for many years. I don't remember how many years I smoked weed straight, but it was bad. It was heavy as much as I could. And initially it's fine. You know, I'm in college, no big deal. Everybody's smoking weed, whatever. But it started to get to be an issue, and it was an issue in my relationship. So there was always a problem with it. You know, I had, you know, been in a relationship for 10 years at that time, and we had, you know, high school sweethearts, all that good stuff. Nope, yeah. She drank, but she didn't smoke, and she didn't like smoking. You know, like it wasn't a thing for her. So it was always in the relationship. It was an issue around every turn. It was an issue. So, but I continue to, you know, smoke and do my thing. I end up getting into medical school. I end up, doing well in medical school, figuring out that, kind of where I want to go with my career, and end up wanting to do cancer, work in the cancer and chemo world. It's kind of strange. I don't know. I say it's strange, but it's just the way, what life's been like for me. I've always been kind of, I don't want to say attracted to death, but I've always been kind of interested in death, and I don't know why. I don't know
You mean
how to
like
explain that,
interested?
other
You
than
mean
to
like
say it's just,
interested in experiencing it, or interested in like other people dying?
I think a little bit of both. Like, I'm not going out wanting to die, don't get me wrong here. And I wasn't in a situation where I ever, wanted to kill myself or whatever. I guess what I mean is I've always been interested in, what's going on here, like, is there, what happens after you die. And as I got older, and as medicine came in, medical school and all that stuff came into play, I really started getting interested in working with people in death and dying, and making sure that, I could help make sure people could, transition, could die peacefully,
Mm-hmm.
without pain, without shortness of breath, without all that stuff. So the other thing that I think interested me was the intensity of the relationship you have with someone, as a provider, or, when someone's dying, is different than other types of relationships. The kind of shit falls away, and what people show you is who they are and where they are. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that's a pure kind of thing that I've always been kind of drawn to.
I suppose, yeah, you would see a
And
new level of honesty when it's coming
yeah,
to the end. Hey,
yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
the intensity thing, I think, is important too to talk about a little bit, is because, I think I was always looking for something that was intense, something that would kind of move my head in a way that would kind of get me out of the traps of, hey, I'm fucking up. This is not going to work out because of, I'm such a, this and that and the other. I think the intense thing just kind of jogged me out of it. So I was always kind of drawn to that intensity. Um, but with that type of work, it's emotional. It's heavy, and being able to let that go is still something I try to. You just got to work on. But as I'm going through my training, and as I'm, learning how to be, a doctor, and learning about, cancer patients, and how to treat, cancers. And I did a year of just all hospice and palliative care. And that was all people that were dying, basically. And I was making sure that they could die peacefully. So
Mm-hmm.
during my training, I had all this really kind of heavy stuff that I loved. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. Um, it's part of what I'm good at. Um, but I didn't have a good way to let it go. Like, I was really bad at letting things go. I can take in stuff. Like, I can take in emotion. I can meet people where they are. I can hold that space for them,
Mm-hmm.
with them. But letting that go has been always a challenge. And, so here I am, a person who is not really good at all with kind of understanding my emotions, or, especially letting go of the emotions that I've sucked up and that I've brought with me all through my life. And so, I have this bad relationship with weed now, where
Mm-hmm.
it's what I need to calm down and to let go. And
And was it really
it
doing
worked
that?
out
Like,
well for
it was really doing that for you? Like, even though there was
it was
causing
doing it for me,
problems,
man.
even though you were probably having to sneak around your
Well,
wife, you'd still smoke it and then feel
absolutely.
calm. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it was the only way that I knew to get away. Now that changed,
Yeah.
because my weed man moved to Colorado.
Did he
Didn't
say goodbye?
check with me at all about that. No, he
Didn't
didn't
even say goodbye, did he?
No, nothing.
Dick
No,
move.
no, not at all. He is an asshole, man. So this guy takes off doing his own thing, which good for him. Good for him. He's a good guy. I knew him from a long time ago. Anyway, weed man moves, and I'm like, shit, I'm a doctor up here, trying to, do these good things, and I'm not gonna go out on the streets and, ask people for weed, like it's
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that. But the good thing was that my wife had a whole big bottle of Percocet that she had gotten at that.
That's the good thing. That's the good thing.
That's the good thing, man. The good thing. Yeah, that's the good thing. That's what saved me, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Saved you, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was good. I was glad it was there. But being in that cycle of addiction already, it was my only choice, so to speak. So I grabbed it, and I took it, and I knew that, I knew what came along with opiates, but I didn't really care, and I didn't think, this won't be an issue. It's no big deal. I'll be able to manage this, And the other funny part was when I started taking the Percocet, I had really bad nausea, really bad nausea. And so I would take them, and a little bit later, I would just get really nauseous, and sometimes I would throw up. But I pushed through, man. I really did. I pushed through that nausea,
through, yeah,
and made it to the other side where it went away.
Yeah.
But I mean, that just started, the train really started rolling fast then. And
did she know? Did she know you were taking them?
No, not at all. I was a sneaky weasel. And I'm sure if she looks back, I'm gonna take a drink of water. I'm sure if she looks back, she'll say she could say, yeah, there was some weird shit going on with you.
Nodding out in your cereal in the morning. This is weird.
Yeah, I mean, but look, remember, I'm working like a damn madman, I'm putting in, 70 hours a week, I mean, I'm working overnights and all that shit. So, well, I'm not around much. And when I'm around, I'm high, and when I'm a good high person in that I can keep shit together, and I can, not look off. And I think early on I was able to do that. Obviously, as time went, it was just bad, and it never worked out well. But so I found those the Percocet to be really helpful. They gave me that same calm, not the same kind of way, but it covered things up, and it had its advantages. I didn't have to worry about the smell. So there was never any arguing about me smoking weed. So in some ways, I was kind of glad I was found that I had stumbled upon that disaster there. But the other thing that kicked up is, my addiction ramped up, just like they always do. I started writing scripts for my wife under someone else's name, and that fed me for 5 years, I think.
Holy cow!
And just the numbers. Yeah.
Just as much as you wanted. Did you ever want for them? Were you ever like, man, I wish I had more? Or did you always just full tilt?
Well, it was full tilt, man, because this was in the early 2000s. So the opiate problems were, right on the horizon, they were just starting, and it wasn't like it became in 2010, 2015, and now. So I was able to get away with a lot of stuff that you could never get away with now. But with healthcare professionals, opiates are the most common thing that you find people abuse, because the access is there. People can forge scripts. It's harder now, but that's usually what happens. So my numbers are going up, and I'm having to write myself more. And, just, I still remember the first time that I ever figured out I was in withdrawal. I was at work and couldn't figure out what's going on. I'm like, shit, what, like I'm getting achy and all nauseous. And I'm like, damn, did I get something from the kids? Like, I feel like I'm having the flu here. And then for some reason it never clicked in, but it clicked in that day. I was like, fuck,
Dope sick.
like, damn, how did I fucking let this happen? Like the shame that came over me then was just amazing. Like,
So did you have any
here I am,
experience
goddamn.
seeing other people? Like, did you ever treat people who were dope sick, or is this the first time that you'd ever come face to face with it?
No. I'd seen people. I mean, it's the hospital I was working at is the hospital that kind of covers everything in the state, and they take on the most people without insurance. If you don't have insurance, you go to this hospital. So I took care of a lot of people who were in withdrawal and who had drugs as really just the main part of what's wrong. So, I had seen it. It was one of those things where, when as a user, I thought I was smarter than everybody else. And especially as a doctor and writing scripts for myself and kind of being super sneaky, like I felt like I really had things figured out, and I was, going to be able to do it and no one would know and blah, blah. But when that withdrawal hit, it was like, fuck,
Yeah.
Here I am. This is the way it is. And so from then on, I started making these big plans, and everybody can relate to this, hey, I'm going to stop and this is how I'm going to do it, except I made these elaborate, okay, I'm going to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 3, 3, blah, 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 and this is going to fucking work out. No big deal. I'm done with this, and it never worked out at all.
No.
And so finally, I'm finishing my training and I get a job, my first job out of school, out of training. I buy a house, at this place. I take this job, I buy this house, I sell the house. We sold the house we were living in Richmond. And I go to fill my last script, and I had decided to write the script a little bit different so it could give me more time to, taper or whatever. And I go to the pharmacy to pick it up, and the pharmacist is like, hang on, it'll just be 1 minute. Just hang on. And so I'm like, all right, no big deal, and I'm, doing my thing. And all of a sudden, I go back up to get the script, and this guy taps me on the shoulder and flashes this card in front of me. It's a state police, kind of the state DEA or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, fuck, what are you going to do then? I mean, I'm fucked. So we go back to his car, and he, tells me all the, shit that he's found on me. He's like, I've looked into, 6 different pharmacies and 5,000. I mean, it was a bunch of fucking pills that I had written to myself. It was thousands. Mm-hmm. And he said, does that sound about right? And I was like, yeah, whatever you got.
I mean, were you keeping track, or was it just like making it rain prescriptions?
No.
Woo!
Right. It was a free for all at times.
Yeah.
But
so did you try to lie your way out of it? Were you like, no, or were you just like, I'm fucked?
No, man, I was fucked. I was fucked by then,
yeah.
because like I said, you have this mental war going on. That yeah. I'm gonna keep this shit together so that I can feel normal, right? I'm totally, strung out by this time. I gotta have it to just be a normal guy, and I'd been doing that for a long time, and I knew that I was a fucking mess, and I knew that I needed help. I knew it, I just didn't know what the help was that I needed. And I didn't know anything about addiction, which is embarrassing, it's embarrassing as a health provider to say I got through the whole thing and was a straight up fucking drug addict, and I didn't know anything about the disease, or the treatments at all. But, getting busted that day was, like people say, it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And everything came crashing down then. It was bad, man.
How did the wife take it?
Lost that job. Wife did not take it well, but
was she like, I knew it, or was she like completely surprised?
She was completely surprised. Like, it knocked everything. Like, she was completely surprised. She didn't walk out the door, that she hung in there, man. I mean, she hung in there through the bad shit then. So it was bad, man. It was bad. I thought I had, thrown every single thing away. I'd worked for forever. 10 years after college, man. 10 years after college, I had been in training and had completely fucked it up. That was a really, really, really bad place. So lost the house, lost the job, lost the house that we had just sold the house in Richmond, had no place to go, man. I had no place to go. So thankfully, and this is amazing, man. Like and I'm sure, Daniel, you have stories like this too, where these people that did things for me at specific times that were life changing, man. Like people
that still happens to me.
The guy that and so the head of the department of oncology called me the day I came into work and turned in on my shit, and he's like I know what's going on. The program director told me everything's going on. He's like, you're one of the best doctors I've ever seen. And he's like, you go get well, and I got a job for you when you come back. And man, I can't explain the feeling that I had when he told me that. It's that was amazing. It changed my life. So and this is the way my story's gone, is that I've had these people that have just really done things for me, and it's allowed me to get into situations that have really made big differences in my life and kept me safe, and just amazing things have happened because of what people have done for me in times of awfulness, and that's something that I actively look to do, because I know what that means. So, but anyway, I go off to rehab. I learn about, I go to rehab for 3 months because as a physician, as a healthcare provider in the state of Virginia, you get big time rehab, which is understandable. So I did 90 days at a healthcare professional's, specialized rehab. And it was a great experience, man. Like, it was my first real introduction into recovery. It was a 12-step based program, heavy on AA. Because of the area that it was in, there was just a lot more AA than there was NA. But we got to get into, some individual therapy and really talk about recovery programs, relapse prevention programs. I mean, it was an all-inclusive kind of thing. And I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot. It was very helpful for me. I really liked the premise of AA and NA, the 12-step stuff. I bought into it. I didn't get a sponsor, didn't do the steps early on. And that came back to haunt me. As a healthcare professional, they have a really strict, it's like a 5-year program where you really have to do a lot of shit. And I'm glad they do. They need, it needs to be an intensive kind of thing, but I kind of bucked back at it because I was still had this anger inside, from years past. And, it was kind of a fuck you, I'll do what you tell me to do. I'll take these drug tests. I'll fill out these forms. I'll go see my therapist. I'll do my aftercare group. But I'm not going to get a sponsor. I don't need a fucking sponsor, so, I'm smart. Yeah.
Were you angry when you went into treatment? Were you like, I don't fucking need this? Or were you like, thank God I'm here?
Yeah, I was, thank God I was here. I'm fucking broken. And
but now I'm cured and I don't need a sponsor.
Yeah, but now, now I'm better. Now I'm not using. And look, man, I'm smart. Like I can read this book and I can hear these stories and I can tell you how to do a recovery program. Like
Mhm.
I can learn about recovery and I can tell you all about it. And that was the problem the first go around for me, was that I thought my IQ would be enough to get me through
Would save
recovery.
you.
So, I didn't, yeah, I didn't get involved with the 12-step program. I ended up leaning more towards my faith, my religion, and there was a 12-step based a Christian program that I ended up going to a lot. But even then, I didn't get involved, and that really came back to hurt me. And so I had problems, man. I had problems with my trauma coming up. Like the first those 90 days in rehab, that first time kind of shook things up, and it was kind of funny because the last week of rehab, the first rehab I went to, all that trauma came back to my head, and I was like, fuck. I guess I'd packed it away really good, but I was like, fuck, man, there is no way I'm getting into that at all. That shit's, I'm just closing that suitcase and it's never coming out again. And I didn't. I closed it all down. I really didn't talk about it after that. But it was like a prelude to things to come. It was really wild. And so I stayed clean for about 3.5 years and did a lot of stuff, marriage counseling. I was doing all this, personal, you know, growth and faith, and things just weren't working out for me. Was having a lot of trouble with anxiety and some pretty damn severe depression. Depression's been a big issue for me my whole life. And I was having really bad depression, and I ended up getting the flu. And when I got the flu, I had remembered when I was in rehab back in 2008 that I'd met a guy who had come in there from drinking cough syrup from dextromethorphan, and he was telling me that dextromethorphan gets processed down the ketamine pathway, and so if you take enough of it, it's a hallucinogen, it'll fuck you up.
Hmm.
And so I get the flu, and like I said, my it's just not in a good place. Things aren't good in my marriage. My mental health is not great. I still have all this shit built up in me from all the death and dying and all that stuff that's still kind of there, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Don't know what to do with it. And I ended up relapsing. I ended up taking a whole box basically of those Robitussin or whatever gels that have dextromethorphan in it, and I got fucked up. And at that time it was amazing. It was like, it was amazing.
So was there any guilt at the time? Like you took the pills and then was it their immediate guilt, or was it just like, wee?
Yeah. Well, it was wee at first,
Yeah.
the hallucinogens are good. I love those. But, waking up to, coming to on the couch, and I look over to my right where the coffee table is, and my wife has found all the empty, little things that you have in,
Bubble packs.
the blister packs or whatever. The blister packs. Yeah. So I'll just fucking whole pile of those things, that I had taken. And she's like, what the hell did you do? What the hell did you do? And I'm like, fuck, yeah.
Super sick. I just gotta feel better.
Yeah. A lot better. I'm good. Yeah. No. But yeah, it was that, it was, holy shit, I'm such a piece of shit. Look at what I've done. I'm such a fuck up. What are you doing? You knew better than this, but it didn't stop, man. It was a situation where I could, I was back in again. Once that happened, I was off to the races, and it was a situation where I would be able to stay clean and stay away from the dextromethorphan for, a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, but then I would take it again, like I would get fucked up again. And that, progressed to taking it every day. And, I was really getting fucking crazy, man. Like, it ended up being a big like stimulant for me. And, I would stay up for, basically days working out, like it was wild. And so me and my wife end up splitting up because, the stuff I'm doing is just bizarre, and I'm really gaslighting the fuck out of her. Like there was this, I mean, it was bad. Like I was so sneaky about it, and it was just bad. It was really bad. So we end up splitting up, and I'm living in this apartment, with my kids coming over. It was the worst time in my life, I would say. One of the worst times. I've had some fucking bad times in life, but that was right there at it. And splitting up was a big deal for me. Like I said, I grew up from small town in the South of the United States, so divorce wasn't something that happened. And having that hang over me was a big deal. So we end up splitting up. My drug use goes off the charts, man. I finally start smoking weed. I smoked a damn quarter pound in a week, right before I got caught. Yeah. So, and at that time, weed wasn't doing it for me. Like I said, it just wasn't doing anything for me, And I'd started taking opiates again. I'd run across some of those, and finally stuff gets fucked up at work where people, who knew me,
Well, I mean, you had to smell. You had to smell like pot, man. Like if you're smoking a quarter pound in a week, you shower as much as you fucking want, man. I don't give a shit. So was that it? Did they smell the weed on you?
And maybe I don't know, man. All I know is that someone said I'd been acting weird, and they knew my story. I'm sure I had made a couple of mistakes that weren't, nothing bad happened, thank God. But, I don't know if one of the nurses working there or if it was a nurse who just knew I wasn't acting right or what. But someone talked to the big boss, and big boss comes to me and says, hey, you're not acting quite right. Why don't you go take a drug test when you're done with work? So, I took my shit, took my drug test, and just walked out of the hospital because, the game was over, man.
Was it the same?
I'll take my shit.
Was it the same boss that gave you the chance last time?
No. That boss had left. Left. Anyway, the gig was up. I left, peed in my cup. I left the hospital. I called the damn rehab that I had been to because I knew that was coming up. There was no doubt. That's exactly what it was like.
Yeah. Hey,
I gotta come back in.
Lost my tail.
Yep, I'm back. But it was a wild run. That was 2.5 years of being out and being fucking just crazy. And it was so bad. Like I talked myself into my kids being better off if I was dead. And, I had this big life insurance policy, and I was causing so much damn disaster, around my house, my family, that I thought, they're going to be better off without me. And I had thought, well, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this single car accident and blah, blah, blah. And so while I say I was never actively suicidal, I was definitely passively, man. I mean, like I was doing really stupid shit in the car. And every night I was going to bed saying, I really don't want to wake up. I'd be so fucking grateful if I don't wake up, so it was bad. So by the time I got to rehab, I was, again, in a place like, I don't know what the fuck to do, but, something's not right. And that time it was different. That time it was, I'm fucking broken, and I know I don't know what I need. And you tell me what to do and I'll fucking do it. And it worked out well. I got involved. I got a sponsor. When I left rehab, I went to a sober living house, stayed there for 9 months. And, I did that because they said, the guy at the recovery house said, hey man, if people stay here the people who stay here for 9 months do the best. And so I fucking stayed there for 9 months,
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the
and I ended up
notion that somebody, sorry, but while we're on right here in this part of the story, I just like the notion of somebody being okay, like after a 28-day stay at a rehab facility or 3 months or whatever, to just like expect them to just like wander off back into the life that they left and expect them to stay like abstinent. I mean, like that should be mandatory. Like I did a year of aftercare. I lived in a sober living house for a year, and here we are, right? That's what worked for me, and I think it works for a lot of people. So yeah,
well, it absolutely does, and there's good data that says the more treatment you get, the better you're going to do. So absolutely, it has to be more than a fucking 28-day stay. Because you and this is the whole thing. This is what I tell people is that, while I, sure, I'm a reasonably intelligent guy, I can, my IQ's good, I can tell you shit tons about addiction and about recovery. And, but I can't tell you how to do it for me. Like I can't dictate my own recovery program, right? Like I need other people to help me see the things that I can't see, because a lot of times, my addiction is sneaky and I can't see it, so to speak, and it's playing out sometimes with me without me knowing it, like especially with my emotions and stuff. And the other thing is that this is about emotion. That's all this is about, is, us learning how to deal with emotions. And I can be the smartest motherfucker in the room, but I don't know shit about emotions, because emotions are completely different than IQ, and once I was able to settle in with that, because that made sense to me, then things really started to fall into place, kind of. I did, a lot of individual therapy, and one of the biggest things, honestly, and this, I talked about this at the beginning, was the mental health part. Is I was diagnosed as bipolar, and when I was diagnosed as bipolar, one of the medicines they gave me was a mood stabilizer. And I'm telling you, when I started that medication, my life changed. And what do I mean by that? My life changed as I stopped wishing I was dead. And I tell people that, and it may sound bad, but I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't suicidal, but there was so much of my life that I just wished I was dead, because, in my worldview, in my faith, death isn't the end, and you do continue on, and the place that you continue on to is more about love. It's not about the bullshit of this world. It's more about those connections that, I make that I've made with people in the very end. And, when they're at the end, it's that real piece of life, and so I thought about death a lot. I thought, I just wish this was over. Shit's hard. Let's be done with it. But starting medications changed that, man. And I'm not saying that I don't have days where, stuff is shit. But I don't sit around wishing I was dead like I used to. And that was a major change for me. And, again, it gets into that stress deal. Like, how do we learn to deal with stress? And I think part of it is behavioral stuff. And part of it is, 12-step, smart recovery, learning your coping skills. This is what you do to stay clean for a long time. But for some of us, for a good percentage of us, we need medication. We need, I need meds to stabilize my brain. And I don't like saying that at all. But I can tell you that I feel a lot better when I'm on them, and I'm clean, So meds were good for me. Meds were good, and they've been good for me. And, one of the things that I see people do is that they get clean and then they don't want to have anything to do with any medication whatsoever. And that's fine. Look, man, I get people who feel that way. I really do. And I'm not saying meds are for everybody at all, but meds do have a big place for some people, at least temporarily. Like I tell people a lot, look, man, let's try this med to, let's try this to see if we can get you anxiety a little bit better, at least for the short term here, at least for a couple months, maybe 3 months. Not everybody needs meds all the time, but meds can make a big difference, especially in bipolar disorder, because there's impulse control issues. And if you don't have, if your impulses aren't controlled very well, then you're going to relapse, man. It's a big reason for relapse. It's a big reason why people relapse, is uncontrolled or undiagnosed co-occurring mental illness. So I'm a proponent for, hey, if you have something, if you've got a mood disorder, that's okay. You're in the majority. If you need meds, hey, that's okay, man. It doesn't mean they have to be permanent, but maybe you'll do better if we give you some meds here. Take some of that stress off, help you with coping, help you get time to cope.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm kind of rambling on here.
No. Relevant. It's a very relevant ramble at least.
Yeah. So, things went really well for me when I started doing what people told me, when I, started being more teachable. It's one thing I talk to people about all the time is, look, man, just be teachable. Tell my kids that, just be teachable, because if you're teachable, you're humble, you're trying to learn. You're not saying you're the best thing around. And so I tried to be really teachable, and I still try to do that. But I think that helped me really learn and really get to a place where I had a good chance at long-term recovery. Luckily for me, I had a friend who was in the field of addiction medicine, and me being without a job, it ended up being an opportunity. And I wanted a break from oncology at that point because I just wanted a break from it, man. I wanted to give life my best shot, and I thought maybe not being around that death and dying so much was a good way to go. They had told me that when I went to rehab the first time, but I wasn't ready to hear it. So this guy gives me this opportunity in this addiction medicine clinic, and it's fucking great, man. Like it was wonderful. And so I'm helping people get clean. We're putting people on Suboxone, and I'm having these interactions with folks that are just amazing, man. Like when I get to talk to someone who's at their bottom, who's really done with it, that's a powerful conversation, man, because how you felt when shit was at the end, when the shit hit the fan, man. And getting into that headspace and being like, look, it's okay, man. You're going to get out of this. You can do this, man. I'm going to be right here with you, and we're going to help you through this with this, that, and other. And I'm going to get you, we're going to get you in with these counselors and helping people down that road. It's just been amazing for me, man. And it's good it's what I want to do as a career, is help people, like this, who are in these situations. And it's good for me from a, my program kind of perspective. And I don't want to say it like that, like it's actually my program, but, being with people, being with my people, being with the addiction world is important for me. And it keeps it right there in my view. And I don't want to lose that, like I don't need to lose that. My addiction is severe.
So,
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your experience, because you did go and get a sponsor. You did go and work the steps. Tell us a little bit about that experience. Did you buy into that right away? Where did you struggle? Where did you succeed?
Well, yeah, I bought into it right away. And like I said, the first time I got clean, the first time I got clean, I bought into it. I just didn't participate, like, I guess I bought halfway into it. I guess I bought part of it. But yeah, the second time around, I bought completely into it. I'm a Christian at that time, and it worked in very well for my worldview. You know, saying the Lord's Prayer after every meeting was very common in the groups where I was in, and that made me feel comfortable because I had been around it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Going through the steps was great. I had no problem at all with 1, 2, and 3 because of the, you know, the religious background I had. Step 4 was an amazing step for me, and I know people talk about it all the time about how step 4 was so, you know, transformational, and for me it really was. And I think for me what it allowed me to do is to let go of a lot of the resentment that I had developed for a couple of folks and a couple of situations. And the more important, I mean, I don't know if it's more important or not, but the other big one from step 4 for me was seeing my part in everything, you know, and being able to see the consistent, you know, shit that I brought to the table.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to let go.
In these situations,
it's easier to let go of resentment when you realize that you were an asshole too. In fact, oftentimes I was the bigger asshole.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you know,
Yeah.
and that, you know, and that was part of it with my marriage was like, God, I was a dick bag, man. I mean, like I did some really shystery shit. So, you know, seeing my part was a really important thing. And, you know, the rest of the steps kind of fell in line, and, you know, things were really well. I did a lot of stuff with AA, and I ran a healthcare professionals group in our city for a long time, for 3 or 4 years. But as an addiction kind of provider, I want to know a little bit about everything, you know, because AA 12-step, it's not one size fits all. And that's, you know, kind of my last point that I wanted to bring up was, you know, part of what I've seen and part of what I'm trying to do is open up my worldview around what is good recovery and what do people need to be in a good place in recovery, you know, because, you know, in my, you know, starting this thing out, I would have said 12 steps the only way, because that was the only way I knew. That was the only way I was brought up, and it worked well for me. You know, it really did, and I still hang on to it. Don't get me wrong, but it's not for everybody. You know, it's not for, you know, people who, you know, there are populations of people who don't need to be told that they're a piece of shit and they're, you know, blah 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 blah. You know, that doesn't work well with all demographics, and it doesn't work well for people who don't have faith for whatever reason, you know. And there are other ways that people can get coping skills, you know, because that's what all these come down to, is coping skills. How are we going to cope with the stress of life without using? And, you know, I think recovery programs, 12 steps, Smart Recovery Dharma, Life Ring, you know, you name
Recovery
it.
Dharma. Whoa. Hang on now. Recovery Dharma. What is that? I've never heard of that.
So Recovery Dharma is really fucking cool, man. It's a slant on refuge recovery. If you've heard of refuge recovery, it's a Buddhist-based program. Refuge recovery was a big deal for a while, but the guy who started it got into some trouble that you know, I've never really looked into. It must not have been too good, but the program got, the board of directors that were on this refuge recovery you know, deal ended up breaking away from the refuge recovery folks and created this thing called Recovery Dharma. And like I said, it's Buddhist based. See, it's based on the first 4 noble truths, I think. And it's just really interesting. It's more of an introspective kind of thing, and it's just very interesting. So the other thing that I'm trying to do, be more open to, is mind body stuff, you know, like there's all this really fascinating stuff coming out about how connected your brain is to your body. And part of, you know, learning to deal with things like anxiety, stress, PTSD, like you name it, is becoming more aware of your body and how your emotions and stuff play out in your body. So, things like EMDR, all that, to help get through process trauma. There's something called the polyvagal theory, which is just really makes a lot of sense. And it has to do with, being able to recognize where your body is out of whack. Like when you get I'll give you an example from me. When I get really anxious, I get this like nauseous feeling right in my, in my stomach, under my, like chest bone or whatever. And it's just a certain feeling. And so what this polyvagal theory says is that if I can like really think about that nausea and try to figure out, well, where is that in my body? Is it on my right or my left? Or is it, in the front of my body or my back? And does it feel like I'm going to throw up, or is it a sour, what is, and so when I think about it, when I think about that specific thing, that specific pain or whatever it is, it goes away. And when that goes away, my brain is more calm. So it's like my brain tells my body to chill out, and then my body tells my brain to chill out. It's amazing, man. It really, it's amazing. So I'm just bringing all that stuff out to say there's a lot of stuff going on that I think we need to be open to. And I think that we as people in recovery need to be better at being inclusive and being supportive of people, whatever their way is. We're all, trying to live, man. We're trying to be productive citizens, and we're trying to do things that are difficult because of who we are and where we've come from. And, a lot of people in this world, in our world, have been, nothing but shit upon. I mean, you can make an argument that addicts are the most, downtrodden, so to speak, depressed group of people, and so I think if we can do a better job at helping each other, being supportive, saying, hey, man, I'm really glad you're here,
Yeah.
But the first thing I tell people when they, because I run a methadone clinic now, and I do a detox and Suboxone clinic in Richmond. And the first thing I say to people when I see them is, man, I'm glad you're here. And if people relapse and they come back, the first thing I say is, man, I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad you didn't die. And I'm very fucking sincere, man. Because that's the way it is for us.
And I'm sure you lose a lot of people
outcome anytime people go out. Yeah, absolutely. We lose people, man. And so I don't care how people get clean. I don't care why people get clean. I just care that they get clean. And I'm willing to help people wherever they are.
There's been times in conversations that I've had where I've come to the realization that there is a very good possibility that I got clean on a resentment. I got clean because I was going to get clean before someone else. And I did. It worked. So
fuck it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And exactly. I did. And exactly. Here we are. So
it cracks me up when people say, I'm getting, I wasn't getting clean for the right reasons, or some shit like that. Well, what the fuck? Who fucking cares, man? Get clean, Get clean, and let's see if we can change your brain a little bit while you're clean, and maybe it'll catch on,
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, man. I'm excited to be in the field. I appreciate you letting me come on and gab a little bit. I'm looking forward to our next conversation, but I guess that's later to come.
Yeah. We don't want to have any spoilers, but Craig's going to be back. You don't worry.
Nope.
He'll be back with fire in his eyes. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming tonight. Thanks for sharing your experience with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Shooting around a little hope, and we'll let you go. Take care, my friend.
All right. I appreciate it. Take care. Have a good week.
There is power in numbers. If you would like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram. Like and comment your thoughts on our posts. Find us on all audio podcast platforms. Let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world the lie is dead. We can recover. There is a safer way, and we're here to show you how. If you would like to see everything we have to offer, visit www.hardknockstalks.com. Take care, everyone. Good night.